1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
Hey, hey.
This is Helmets and Heels
On 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Are we feeling better or worse? Just under 48 hours since the loss to the Dolphins. Feeling better or worse about it?
The things that I felt worse about, I feel better about, and the things I felt better about immediately, I feel worse about. Does that make any sort of sense?
No, not at
I
all.
think that's
I think I'm the same, honestly.
maybe that's what Doug Peterson had in mind
on.
when he came to the Miller Electric Center as we were signing off yesterday, and all the parties involved that so many of you out there in Jaguar land and in Healigan Nation were clamoring to be the scapegoat. None of those parties were mentioned, and instead the parties who you praised after Sunday's loss to the Dolphins were the ones that came into question. Most notably, the defensive coaches who, quote, need to coach better and coach them up a little bit more, despite the fact that, well, yes, in theory, on paper, which the game is not played on paper, the Jaguars did give up the most passing yards of any NFL team this weekend. However, 3 times 80 equals 160. About 180 of those 400-plus passing yards were on 3 plays.
2 times 80 equals 160.
Well, then there was another 60-yard play thrown in there. I'm going off Pete
Waddle
Prisco's.
had a 60-yard.
Yeah, I'm going off Pete Prisco's math here. The point is that if you subtract those 3 plays, then you're looking at a much more manageable number. You can't subtract those 3 plays. They happen.
Yeah,
That's why Doug
they were
Peterson
there.
said it. However, you are going against a team that not only was the number 1 ranked offense last year in the National Football League, but they were far and away the number 1 ranked offense in September and October each of the past 2 years because of those big plays that you have to account for in the scouting report and when you prepare to play the Miami Dolphins. And so that was a bit surprising, but certainly it does bring into question, why were there blown assignments? Why were Antonio Johnson and Andre Sisco perhaps not in the best position to make a play on the ball in those situations?
Antonio Johnson, in his first start at safety, I think it was a rough start. He missed some tackles, and then, yes, there was the blown coverage as well.
Yeah, and I saw a chart yesterday, too, that I had retweeted. Ronald Darby had a rough day, and a lot of that was because of the 189-yard, whatever it ended up being. But he also was on the 60-yard Waddle play that was a big 3rd and 8, I think, conversion. Then he was on the other one right before half that was a 3rd and 8 conversion that Waddle also. So a tough day for Darby, too. Once you go back, and I think that to Mia's point, that's what happened is like there was maybe some criticisms coming out that we talked about yesterday, and then now going back and rewatching and seeing certain plays, there were other areas that maybe were a little concerning in certain aspects. But I think, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Dolphins fans were like, okay, our offense could have played way better. And that's a team that just had 338 passing yards, but they were probably looking at that first half like, okay, well, we have some of the best weapons in the league and we couldn't do anything. So honestly, they probably didn't think it was a fantastic day. And so that is also what's a little alarming because it's a day that to them, they probably felt like from start to finish, it wasn't great. They just ended up having a good second half.
Yeah, and I understand people are going to say, well, the first half, the Dolphins were flat because of the whole Tyreek Hill incident. And as it turns out, Calais Campbell involved as well, that they got detained and things like that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that was pretty much out of their system. I think the Jaguars defense, led by Ryan Nielsen, presented some challenges to the Dolphins that they weren't expecting because it is brand new. And in the second half, roles reversed. And Anthony Weaver presented things to the Jaguars offense that they weren't expecting. And so both defensive coordinators, I thought, had a good day. Yes, there were explosive plays, but in the end, what failed in the second half was the Jaguars offense. But here's why I feel a little bit better, not about the loss itself, but one thing that I want to focus on, and that is the Jaguars offense has traditionally gone through the last few seasons, gone through a Travis Etienne, gone through an Evan Ingram, gone through a Christian Kirk. I think it needs to go through Brian Thomas Jr. And here's why I say that. Because nobody can cover him. We talk about the Dolphins' weapons and their speed. Brian Thomas Jr. runs a 4.33, and it may be faster than that. They couldn't cover him. That's why you saw the best corner on the Dolphins team, albeit a little bit injured with a hamstring injury, but he had just gotten paid. And Jalen Ramsey, not able to cover him. That's why he had to get the defensive pass interference. Here's one stat that I saw today, or I researched today, that really stuck with me. Brian Thomas Jr., if he gets over 1,000 yards this season as a rookie, and that's the key, obviously, as a rookie receiver, he will join the likes of Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Anquan Bolden, Odell Beckham, Michael Clayton, Michael Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, A.J. Green, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Chris Olave, and Marcus Colston as the only rookie receiver since the year 2000 to have over 1,000 yards. That, to me, is how the offense needs to be a little bit more designed moving forward.
Let's see how he looks against the Browns defensive backs this weekend, because that is a three-headed monster. And while certainly we can get into the latest news with Deshaun Watson and the dysfunction on the offensive side of the ball in Cleveland, make no mistake about it, Myles Garrett is no longer the headliner when it comes to this Browns defense. Certainly he's the biggest name on that defense, but if you go up and down the members of that secondary, there are some studs who I think can keep up with BTJ, unlike what Jalen Ramsey's performance was this past weekend.
Yeah, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a fantastic weapon for the Jaguars. I do think there are a lot of things that go into factor. I think there's still going to be some growing pains. These teams don't have much film at all on BTJ, so now they do. They're going to be able to see some of the things that he does well in the first half. That was one of the things that kind of bothered me with Doug's comments, because I'm like, you completely abandoned, or whoever was play calling completely abandoned Brian Thomas Jr. in the second half, and he was, by EPA per route, the best wide receiver in week one in that first half. So there's things like that too, but how much is that? Miami started figuring that out. I don't know. That's when you have to go back and look at those little details, and some of it was they weren't getting him the ball. Some of it may have been they started figuring out, okay, we do have to cover Brian Thomas Jr., and maybe they weren't focusing on that as much in the first half because they were looking at an Ingram and a Christian Kirk and some of those other guys. So those are all things. I think there's going to be really, really good games, and I think there's going to be ones where we're not going to see much of Brian Thomas Jr. just because that kind of happens in rookie seasons, especially when you have a team that has other weapons that Trevor is very comfortable going to on most of the time.
Let's take this beyond BTJ. Let's look at, because I know this is what the Heeligans are dying to talk about, let's look at the offense as a whole in the second half, because I think that is what so many hoped that Doug Peterson would be critical of yesterday at the podium. And he largely was not. If anything, he said the reason that after the Travis Etienne fumble that they ran the ball seven or eight times, eight of nine with one passing attempt. And then, yes, the 2 sacks certainly too, was because they felt like they were running over the defensive front of the Miami Dolphins. Again, not something that I think a lot of people expected to hear. They were running the ball. There's no doubt about that. The Jags averaged close to 5 yards a clip. However, to your BTJ point, Lauren, part of why they were averaging over 5 yards a carry in the first half was because they were running to set up the pass. Play action was in full force. A round of applause, please, RJ, for @DuvalAndrew on X, Andrew Kessler. These are some great stats that he was able to dig up from the Jaguars game on Sunday comparatively to last year. Trevor threw play action passes on 42.9% of his attempts on Sunday. He went 6 of 9 in play action for 68 yards, 5 first downs, a 1.4 EPA. 42.9% of the time was play action, right? Last year, the Jags threw play action 19.2% of all attempts. So that's a positive development, obviously, right? One of those play action passes was, of course, to Brian Thomas Jr. on the pass interference call on Jalen Ramsey,
Which would have been about a 40-yarder.
In fact, 2 of Brian Thomas's official 4 targets, which included that play, were play action. The Jaguars did not attempt a play action pass after the 4:06 mark left in the third quarter. Why?
I don't know. Ask Doug or Press, whoever wants to tell us. And another thing that sticks out, too, and I just read this online about when we're talking about the run game, because Tank Bigsby had the 4th most yards after contact per attempt at 5.1. So of his 73 yards, 61 yards of those were after contact. So that's, I think, something we still need to address, because that was an issue last year of there was contact almost immediately with these running backs and they weren't getting a ton of space. But you do have a guy like Tank that can get those after, so maybe that caught up to them in the second half because you were able to run because Tank was getting all these yards after contact. But if they're able to shut that down a little bit, then your run game's not going to work the way it was in the first half.
I would say, though, define what run after contact means, because contact can simply mean, Lauren,
touch.
If you're watching on MyBookie, that's run after contact.
Yeah.
So
how much was the contact?
Assault.
Yeah.
If that's the case, like, you're going to have somebody tap you. I mean, for as much as we saw the 49ers run rabid over the New York Jets last night, there was some touching.
Yeah.
There was contact. It wasn't like it was as clean a lane to the end zone as you're going to see.
But it was still the fourth most. Either way, other people are getting touched on other teams too right away. So it's that contact in general.
I was interested to hear Jeff Lageman on Jaguars Today say that he still has full confidence in the offensive line. I do understand that Doug praised them yesterday, and at times I think they did play really well, and the interior, which we had criticized heavily, did play well. But if your tackles aren't playing as well as you would expect, then I think overall the offensive line in critical moments gets a failing grade.
Yeah.
And are there multiple things that go into that? Does Trevor need to get rid of the ball faster, or does he need to move a little bit different if he sees the pressure coming? All of that is a thing. But you've got to design the offense to make him comfortable, and part of that, or a main part of that, is having the offensive line protect him for a little bit longer than they did in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and the most pressures came from Anton and Ezra. Those were the two most pressures allowed on Sunday. And so that's what Anton, that was an unfortunate one because it was the strong suit from last year of how well Anton played. But everybody, offensive line have those games. Even some of the best in the league have games where you watch and you're like, whew, it wasn't his day. And unfortunately, it was that for Anton. Ezra is someone that I'm keeping an eye out that we need to see more because we didn't see enough last year, in my opinion. And then you have the second most pressures allowed in the first week. And now you're going up against the Browns, who up front are a lot more scary, in my opinion.
Outside of that, though, I mean, across the board, I feel like the returns on Ezra were pretty positive. I mean, whether it was Lageman, Prisco, the PFF, not like it was pretty solid, I would say, in terms of well-rounded. He was in run blocking and pass blocking. I would argue, outside of Mitch Morse, who had a great day, I would argue he was the most consistent lineman for the Jaguars because you did see Cam Robinson, of course, whiff a time or two. Anton, the struggles are well documented. Brandon Scherf struggled in run blocking, especially on that 3rd and 1 play late in the fourth quarter, or not late in the fourth quarter, I guess early in the fourth quarter, before the 4th and 1 failed play. So that's where I think Ezra actually probably turns out to be, I kind of laughed when I was listening to the happy hour yesterday with Tony Baselli and Pete Prisco. I kind of laughed when they said, honestly, Ezra was solid and Mitch was your best offensive lineman. And I just was like, it's almost like the two acquisitions, because they do view Ezra as an acquisition to this offensive line, that they made this offseason actually did fortify the offensive line, despite everyone saying they did nothing to fortify the offensive line.
But here's the other thing I'll say. If your offensive line if they're being bulldozers against the Dolphins, and you have a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, and you're so confident in them, why don't you have a quarterback sneak? Yeah. Which last year we understand Trevor almost got hurt a few different times doing it because he did it way too much. But in that critical moment, give your 6'6" quarterback who looks clearly.
Are you talking about on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1?
Either one. I don't care. Yeah. Give him the ball and have him. Again, he looks stronger to me upper body wise than he has in the time he's been here with the Jags. So give him the ball.
I speak, I am in big trouble. Let's go to Robert's comment on the MyBookie Digital Studio chat line. Who wants to know why the Jags don't use Brenton Strange as a fullback on 4th and 1? That's a great proposition as well. Because if you aren't confident enough that your quarterback can get a yard, if this offensive line can get a yard, the Miami Dolphins sure as heck have no issue trotting Alec Ingold out there. Yeah. The San Francisco 49ers have no issue trotting Kyle Juszczyk out there to not only be a receiving threat, but to be an extra blocker. Maybe you even, I don't know, want to bring a tight end in and help on other run blocking plays and actually give those two tackles who were struggling mightily some help. Yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah, definitely add some chip help when you're noticing that your year 2 tackle is having a rough day. And that's something, those little moments are what, like going back to what I said a few minutes ago, those little moments are the ones that's interesting to me, that Doug kind of calling out the defense in a way when there were a lot of those little things offensively that fell short in the second half, especially. And when you were up and had a 92% chance to win the game, and it was because of that side of the ball that you couldn't.
Yeah, in the end, I think the disappointment is going to linger, obviously, until the Jaguars take the field on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it becomes, I'm not going to use the term must win, that's overused, but it becomes a game that you better win. Yeah. Again, not must win in week 2, but you better win it because then you turn around and go to Buffalo for a Monday nighter. So the Jaguars certainly need to have this one against the Browns. We will talk a little bit about last night's game as the 49ers beat the Jets. Also hear from Doug Peterson on an Active Health Jacks Tuesday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
A sturdy defense keeps your end zone safe like a superior fence keeps your family and pets safe.
It's fantastic.
After the game, catch the Superior Fence and Rail Defensive Player of the Game.
What a baller.
On 1010XL.
What makes a Honda certified pre-owned vehicle so special? 182-point inspection, 24/7 roadside assistance, first-year free oil changes, and a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty for carefree driving backed by American Honda. Visit your local Honda dealer today.
I'm Clayton Bromberg, the president of Underwoods, and I'm proud to say that Underwoods is the longest-standing member of the American Gym Society in the state of Florida. That's important because the American Gym Society promotes professionalism inside the business, and most important because of how it protects the customer. Gemstones are like most things, and you have to have the knowledge about them before you can tell the truth about them. That's where the American Gym Society fits in. They're the organization that certifies gemologists and registered jewelers and certifies sales associates with professional titles. Then to ensure that we stay up to date with these gemological advances, we re-win our titles by passing a written test every year. And now I'm proud to say Underwoods has the largest credentialed American Gem Society staff east of the Mississippi River. So if you're interested in diamonds and jewelry and want real professional help, stop by Underwoods.
Underwood Jewelers in San Marco, in Avondale, and at the shops of Ponte Vedra.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Are you looking for a remix on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich? The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite, created with a Chick-fil-A filet, a drizzle of honey, pickled jalapenos, and a spread of savory pimento cheese. The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich combines your favorite flavors with a twist. And this year it's back with a bite with a spicy filet option, available for a limited time only, so stop by and enjoy one today at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Brian Wall here. Would you take your paycheck, go to the bank, cash it, and then simply throw it up in the air? I didn't think so. But in a way, over the years, that is exactly what you're doing if you have old or builder-grade windows in your home. Even if you have a brand new home, those windows are not the best windows you can have to save on your energy bills. Window World has sold millions of replacement windows to homeowners like you, and Window World's customer satisfaction is the highest in the business. Please check Window World out yourself and save on your new windows and on your energy bills. Compare with other companies and you'll see Window World is simply the best for less. It's up to you. You can call Window World and get a free estimate, get the best guarantee in the window replacement business, save money on your new windows, and save more on your energy bills. Call Window World today at 904-443-7001 or go online to windowworldneflorida.com. Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors.
The home team lost Sunday, so I know so many of you have so many questions. I'm also going to guess one of those questions is, why Arlington? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because our friends over at Arlington Toyota have so many reasons why your next new Toyota is at Arlington. But first, let me ask you a question. Don't you just love having to drive from lot, to dealer to try to find a good selection? Nobody likes that. And thanks to Arlington, you don't have to. Arlington's lot is packed with new Toyotas in stock in one location, ready to go home with you today. If anything, you might have a hard time deciding with so many options to choose from. It's okay, because Arlington has you covered there with their 60-day exchange program. That's 60 days to love your new purchase or exchange it for one that you do. Worried about financing? There's the Arlington Credit Helper. You even get a complimentary car wash with every service. So instead of asking why Arlington, ask, why aren't you here yet? Shop in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, or online at arlingtontoyota.com.
I've known Glenn Cohen for a long time as a friend and a lawyer. Persistent and fair, Glenn and his firm have represented clients from North Florida and South Georgia for over 40 years in all kinds of personal injury cases. If I had such a case, call Glenn at Barnes, Cohen, and Sullivan.
Brackish Vodka, the official vodka of UNF Athletics, 100% made in Jacksonville, is available at all local liquor stores. Visit Browdy's, Total Wine, ABC, Shores, Golden, Sahara's, Golden Ox, and more. Drink our gluten-free San Francisco Spirit award-winning vodka and see why it's the smoothest vodka you can buy. When you drink Brackish Vodka, you support all of our local employees, and all the money stays in Jacksonville. Drink Brackish Vodka and live life slightly salty. Proud partner of the Jaguars.
Hello, all you Jacksonville sports fans. Don here from Taco Lou. If you're in the mood for some great tacos, cold Dos Equis, and maybe even a sip of some fine tequila, then the Lou is calling your name. Come out to Jack's Beach and experience what many have dubbed the #1 taco in the 904. There are plenty of great taco joints in town, and we're proud to have been around for this long, and we have only you, the fine people of Jacksonville, to thank for helping us grow and become who we are today. Cheers to you, Jacksonville, and thank you from the Lou crew. Taco Lou in Jacksonville Beach.
Big Sirs here. Join me, Hacker, and Coach Campo Sunday for the Winter World of Northeast Florida's 5th quarter live from Island Girl Cigar Gate Parkway. Enjoy all-day happy hour and my cigars. It's the 5th quarter Sunday, live at Island Girl Cigars Gate Parkway.
David Garrard here. Playing in the NFL can put a lot of wear and tear on your body, especially your knees. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist has kept me mobile and ready to tackle every day.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
David Garrard here. I've had the PRP treatment from Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, and my knees are really doing well. Platelet-rich plasma treatment may be the answer for whatever is hurting you.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Universal Roof and Contracting presents the Offensive Player of the Game. Universal Roof and Contracting. The difference is universal.
Brian Thomas Jr. had a great debut for Jacksonville and Miami. The wideout recorded 4 receptions for 47 yards and added in a touchdown in what was an impressive first performance. The young man, although in his rookie campaign, looked like a seasoned pro while out there on the field. Brian Thomas Jr. is your Universal Roof and Contracting Offensive Player of the Game.
Universal Roof and Contracting has been protecting Florida homes from the elements for over 30 years. Call Universal Roof and Contracting today for a free roof inspection and get 15% off your roof repair or replacement. Plus, flexible financing options and payments as low as $115 a month. This offer expires September 30th. Call 855-ROOF-HELP.
License number CCC 1330747, CBC 1258484.
UniversalRoof.com.
Hello, this is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about putting your worries in the right bucket. So often we put our worries in our own bucket, but many times they need to be in God's bucket. The Bible says, present your problems always to God. In other words, leave them in God's bucket. Understand that no matter what is out of your control, it's never out of the control of Almighty God.
To hear more inspirational messages by Reverend Dr. Nicholas Lowe, please visit our website at stjohnthedivine.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Last night, the 49ers beat the Jets 32-19. Taylor Dahl, in watching Aaron Rodgers' first game since a year ago when he tore his Achilles on the 4th snap of the game, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's death taxes and Aaron Rodgers not being able to beat the San Francisco 49ers. It's his life, and it probably is. It's how the Bears are with him is how he is with the Niners, and it's fun to watch because we were never able to do that to him, but I was all right. I mean, you saw some really incredible arm strength. That's what Aaron Rodgers is. He's able to, some of the things that he can do with the football when it comes to getting it downfield is really impressive. But, I mean, when you go through, it's just their punt, fumble, touchdown, punt, end of half, interception, touchdown. Like, I don't know if anyone would say that was a successful night for Aaron Rodgers. I think that the Niners, though, we know their defense is one of the better ones in the league. So what will that look like when they're not going up against the best team in the NFC? We will see. But, yeah, I feel like there's a few flash moments, and that's what he was able to do. Also, I think, like you just said, it was a year since he's played. He's coming off that Achilles. So how will it take a few games? Number one, new team coming that hasn't played in a long time. All of these things kind of factor in. So to me, it will be interesting to kind of see how things start to go once he is a few weeks in with this offense and back from injury, because he didn't even play in the preseason either. So this is pretty much their test for the entire offense with Aaron Rodgers, other than 4 plays last year. But yeah, I love it. It's fantastic seeing him lose anytime, even when he's not in Green Bay. So.
Somehow that's like so in summation, it's great to watch Aaron Rodgers lose, folks.
Does he look a little older?
He looks old.
Right? Like, it does feel like he's aged. I don't know if it's the Achilles, if it's the darkness, if it's the ayahuasca, if it's the Egypt
everything
trip.
combined.
Yeah, the Jets are at the Titans coming up next, then play host to the Patriots, and then play host to the Broncos. So the next 3 to me are certainly quote-unquote winnable if the Jets offense can get on track.
I think that it's a gut punch for the Jets because they probably saw no Christian McCaffrey and said, wow, we actually legitimately have a chance in this ball game.
Yeah.
And
then Jordan Mason.
And instead Jordan Mason runs all over them for a $147.
Give some flowers to him, though, because did you also see the clip of afterwards the reporters asking him? Because apparently they just said before the game Christian McCaffrey wasn't playing, but reportedly they told him Friday. So rather than letting this guy celebrate that he just had almost 150 yards rushing, all they were asking about is Christian McCaffrey and when he found out. I'm like, let this guy have his moment.
Worse yet, Kyle Shanahan, after Jordan Mason was like, yeah, they told me Friday. And then Kyle Shanahan goes, we didn't know till right before the game. I just told him to be ready. And it's like, oh my God, can we celebrate this former undrafted free agent who gets to tell his mom during pregame warmups on the sideline, hey, I'm about to make my first NFL start. It was his first start, Saucy Nuggler, since he was in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Or sorry, not his first start. I take that back. First time with 28 plus carries. That's what it was.
Oh.
That's the Saucy
Nuggler. He started at Georgia Tech.
Sorry, he started at Georgia Tech. My apologies there. There was somebody else that I was thinking about with that start stat because there was somebody else last night with that. Coffee's not hitting yet. 28 carries. First time he's had over 25 carries in a game since he was in high school in 2016.
Yeah.
And at that moment that you score your first touchdown, too, is just special. Look, I'm not ever going to say that Christian McCaffrey is going to take a backseat to Jordan Mason. That would be silly. But like we've seen with other teams, having a tandem at running back is so valuable.
Yeah.
The Jaguars, we hope, finally have it now. But it's so incredibly good for the main back to be able to have a chance to relax for a little bit.
I think the 49ers also should give you hope, Jacksonville, that, a zone blocking scheme, if implemented properly, is not only aesthetically pleasing, but realistic in 2024. Because the way that those 49ers offensive linemen, much maligned, by the way, because the knock was outside of Trent Williams, who else do they have? Saw a lot out of third-rounder Dominic Pooney, the right guard out of Kansas, the rookie. And the reality is, if you have guys that can simply move other human beings, it doesn't matter if they're bulldozing, if they're pancaking, if they can move them. That is all that matters in a zone blocking scheme. Yes, there's other things that go into it. But I think what you saw last night was a prime example of certainly, yes, Jordan Mason, when his number was called, he was ready. But it also was an example of an offensive line knowing their assignments and executing.
And then Jets defense might not be as good as we thought. That's the other thing to me. That stood out.
Oh.
The Jets defense might not be as good as we thought.
That's what I wanted to get
honestly,
to.
Because, granted, again, you're going against some of the weapons, but you don't have Christian McCaffrey. There's this running back that no one's ever really seen in the NFL so far. And then, yes, you have Debo. You have a Brandon Ayuk, who honestly didn't have that great of a game. Anticlimactic for all of the offseason drama that happened with that one. Do Jets fans, because I saw the first touchdown that Aaron Rodgers threw, or the only touchdown Aaron Rodgers threw, the immediate tweets were like, Jets fans celebrating because they have a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield and accurately to the wide receivers. And then it just, like I said, a few of those minutes. But I think a lot of the Jets fans everyone's been telling them all offseason that it's maybe it can take them a few weeks because your defense is so good. You'll be able to get through those first few weeks as their offense is kind of learning each other. And it didn't really look anything super impressive to me, honestly. It looked like they were just an average defense. One of the funny parts was to me that both touchdowns went to Alan Lazard. I'm like, of all the
11th highest wide receiver according to PFF, 11th highest graded wide receiver for week 1, Alan Lazard. Coincidentally enough, after he dropped the first pass of the game from Aaron Rodgers, my mom texted me because, of course, I did cover Allen for 3 years in Iowa State, and The irony was he signed as an undrafted free agent here in Jacksonville, and 6 months later, I got a job here, and I was here in the locker room with him. So she's texting me. She's like, man, I want Allen to get involved, even if they're going to lose. And then touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, you know what?
There he is.
Here he is. Allen's at least doing something. He's, showing he was worth the 4-year contract that they gave him as a friend of Aaron Rodgers. But no, Taylor, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum because you experienced it with the 2018-2019 Chicago Bears. And Jacksonville Jaguar fans can speak to this, to the 2017 defense and how quickly it decayed. I don't want to say that the Jets defense is decaying, that it is going down a cliff rather quickly, because I don't think that's the case when you have Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, if only on their physical age, just entering their prime. I mean, Sauce Gardner is, 23, 24 years old? He's been an All-Pro in his first 2 seasons in the league. Yeah. I don't think he is regressing at all. But the truth is, when it comes to that core of a defense, it really only has a 2 to 3 year run. We have seen it throughout the course of the 21st century. You can go to the Legion of Boom. How sustainable was the Legion of Boom after 2013? Yeah. It went on for another, 3 or 4 years? And then slowly and surely, the pieces either got old, left for more money somewhere else, and the other pieces that came in did not fit the puzzle as snugly as those that preceded it. And so, look, I'm not going to write the Jets defense off after 1 week, especially when they get to play Will Levis next week. But this idea of turnovers and defensive success carrying over year to year, you cannot guarantee the ball is going to bounce your way as much as it does, like it did for the Jags in 17 and 18, like it did for the Bears in 18 and 19, as it will the next 2 years to follow. It's just statistically impossible.
There are a few teams that would say, actually, we've had defensive success year over year for a long time.
But with different iterations.
Right. But to me, it's a cultural thing. The Ravens, you're never going to play the Ravens and they're going to have a bad defense. Yeah. The Steelers, you're never going to play the Steelers and their defense just be atrocious. And I'm not saying the Jets was or will be this season, but to me, it's more of that institutional thing. And I don't know that that's built in the Jets culture, even though Robert Saleh is a defensive mind.
Yeah, and that's what I think more so for the Ravens. It hasn't always been the same. Like, they go get Roquan because the defense they did feel like it was backtracking a little bit. So they traded for Roquan Smith, which then got them right back to where they were. And we see defenses do that. The Bills have been a top 6 defense for the past 6-7 years. And it's because they figure out ways, even when they lose guys like a Tremaine Edmonds sorry, that's Buffalo. Whenever they lose guys like a Tremaine Edmonds, or there was another big player they lost within the last few years, they just are able to find these other guys to revamp it. So the Jets more so, even though Quincy Williams even had a better game, you could argue, than Quinnen last night.
Yeah, but he could, absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see if they can follow that path. And I think that's a lot of it. Same with Philly. We saw this Philly defense from a couple seasons ago, and then we saw it regress. Can they rebuild it and get it back to where it is? It's more so, you're not going to keep the same defense and be good for 4 or 5 years in a row. You have to be one of those teams that know how to revitalize these guys and find,
the evolution is so critical. And look, when you look up and down this Jets depth chart, the reality is a lot of these guys are homegrown players. The core is homegrown and are going to get, I would assume, although you never can predict, second contracts. Yeah. As much as this town technically birthed Quincy Williams into the league, we'll throw Quincy in that pile. Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter, the nickelback, who unfortunately got banged up last night. Those are all guys that they've brought into the league. Yes, they acquired C.J. Mosley in free agency, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, DJ Reed. Those guys came to the Jets. But the truth is that they do have that core, Taylor, to your point, that they can evolve. But the question is, that's going to be 4 or 5 guys. What about the other?
All of them?
Right. Can you pay all of them, number one? And number two, those other 6 or 7 guys, can you hit and find the proper replacement either in the draft or in free agency? I'm just not so sure. And so that is where I have questions about the Jets, let alone, let's not bury the lead, Robert Saleh is going to get fired if this team doesn't make the postseason. Let's just put that out there. And he is not only the head coach, but he is the defensive play caller. And if you clear house in New York, can you properly identify a DC? Can you properly identify a head coach that can fortify this defense on what it's already done?
It is to your point too, Lauren, because I think you mentioned it on Friday, maybe it was, but about how Leonard Floyd was the one who took Aaron Rodgers. And then the game starts with a Leonard Floyd sack really early. So I was like, oh, Leonard Floyd. I wonder if Aaron Rodgers was like, don't come near me.
Yeah, it has to be a little bit of deja vu that he was the one, like you said, a year ago. All right, the best thing I saw last night was not Aaron Rodgers losing. Ricky Pearsall there.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
That was awesome.
A little over a week after being shot and then being able to thank the first responders who helped save his life. That was fantastic. And yes, basically the two teams that ended last season in the Super Bowl, and I'm sure a reason, Mia, that you picked them to be in the Super Bowl again this year, the Chiefs and the 49ers, look dang good yet again.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick against them. All right, we will let you hear from Doug Peterson when we return. Also, news surrounding the Jaguars and the Browns as far as some roster moves. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on an Active Health Jacks Tuesday. You can visit them at activehealthjacks.com or give them a call, 904-296-0202. If you're in pain today, they can help you. It's 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Cyber threats don't take time outs. Protect your business with DoubleCheck Cybersecurity's AI-powered solutions. Get 24/7 defense and stop hackers before they score. Don't wait. Visit doublecheck.com to schedule your free security consultation today.
What defines a hero? Dedication, loyalty, courage. Every day at AMCO, we serve heroes. For over 60 years, we've repaired and maintained the most critical public service vehicles. From complex transmissions to simple brake jobs with flexible financing and the extra safety precautions we need. The heroes we serve don't all wear uniforms. They're people like you. At AMCO, we're proud to serve all of you. AA MCO.
Money tight? We can finance almost anybody. Find the AMCO transmissions nearest you at amcojacksonville.com.
Firefighters, paramedics, police officers, they take care of us, and at AMCO, we're proud to take care of them. For over 60 years, we've repaired and maintained the most critical public service vehicles. As an essential business, we work on every kind of car repair with flexible financing and extra safety precautions. Essential, reliable, trusted. That's the men and women who are there for us, and it's our honor to be there for them. AA MCO.
Family owned and operated in Jacksonville, Orange Park, St. Augustine, and St. Mary's, Georgia. AMCO Transmissions and Total Car Care.
Mia here, and let me tell you, folks, I know it's raining, it's cloudy, it's dreary. It's still hot outside, which means your AC better be blowing nice and cold on the inside. If for any reason it's not, my friends at Duck Duck Air Conditioning are here to help. Their qualified service techs can handle any type of cooling issue at your home or business. So don't deal with the summer heat outside and inside. Give Duck Duck AC a call today to schedule service. 904-862-6769 or online at duckduckac.com. Duck Duck AC is a licensed mechanical contractor.
Injured in an accident? Have mounting medical bills? Can't work? Don't worry. Zach's got your back. I'm Zach Von Rowan of Von Rowan Law. I will fight for the compensation that you deserve. Set up your free consultation at zachsgotyourback.com.
Guys, feeling deflated in the bedroom? ED, low T, no energy? If your stuff is broken, call 904-STROKEN or 904stroken.com. No shots and the first treatment now free. Fix your ED at 904stroken.com.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. From GFL, Green for Life.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On September 10, 1989, Indianapolis running back Eric Dickerson rushes for 106 yards against San Francisco, becoming the fastest player to top the 10,000-yard plateau.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
We're back! Mia here, and winning season is back, football is back, and MyBookie is here to make sure you're ready to cash in on the action. This season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions, like weekly risk-free boosts on Thursdays, where you can bet without a sweat. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, forget it. MyBookie will refund your wager. That's just the beginning, folks. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super, Survivor, and Squares contests. Get your entries in now for your shot at huge cash rewards. For a limited time, they are bringing back the double deposit bonus. When you're ready to get started, just use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. You heard that right. Double your money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Not to mention, loyalty pays off with MyBookie Plus. The more you play, the more you win. Climb through tiers of loyalty rewards programs to unlock even more epic promotions. Only with MyBookie.
Make the move to ABS, Advanced Business Solutions, and you won't hear your employees complain about the copier anymore. Instead, you'll hear this. Advanced Business Solutions, your local Xerox dealer.
This is Dr. James Perry, Assistant Team Physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jaguars, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
Today was a Check the Tape Tuesday on Jaguars Today with Jaguars analyst Jeff Lageman. Lageman's thoughts on the Travis Etienne fumble that changed the momentum of Sunday's game.
Etienne with the fumble, when you got a guy approaching you, I mean, and you can see him, cover up. I mean, you're 2 yards away from the Holy Land. You know, cover it up and lower your shoulder and bury it in.
Jeff Lageman this morning with Jaguars Today. Jaguars rookie wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. has been nominated for the Week 1 NFL Rookie of the Week. Fans can vote for Brian Thomas Jr. at NFL.com/rookies. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Love to see you shine in the night like the diamond you are.
Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor on 1010XL.
Taylor Dalmio, Brian, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. Before we get to Doug Peterson, what are we jamming out to, RJ?
This is Khalid, Better. I don't know who posted it, so.
I think it was me. I love this song.
I like it. It's helping on this gloomy Tuesday as we have to look back to a Jaguars loss to the Dolphins 20-17. All right, so Mia, yesterday Doug met with the media, and by all accounts, I would say the word chippy or defensive would be used.
What did Dan Hicken refer to him as?
This was before the presser, but Dan yesterday morning said smug Doug.
Oh,
Smug.
maybe Dan knew something.
Dan
Dan didn't realize what was coming down. Maybe that's what Doug heard. Maybe he heard Dan say it, and maybe that's what he said. I'm leaning into the bit, which, hey, applauds to that. Listen, live the gimmick. No, I mean, I don't know why he was on edge. Maybe, again, it's difficult because I know, and I have spoken to so many people in that building, staffers, coaches, yes, players too, but I'm talking people beyond just the 53-man roster who have said that they appreciate so much that Doug Peterson comes in every Monday after you got blown out by 50 or you won by 50, and he's the same exact person. And I envision that that's what he was to those who work in that building yesterday morning, but it certainly was different to see him not even keel per se at the podium. And I don't want to, scrutinize it too much because there could be other factors at play. Or it could be, hey, I am going to give off a different demeanor because I don't want my team to think, I don't want my staff to think that what they put on tape on Sunday is acceptable.
Yeah, and I could see it being that way. Like, we never know, obviously, what is going on between, and we were just kind of talking about this off air, but coaches, family, like a lot of things factor into a day-to-day life from everybody. And so it could be something like that, or it could be like Mia just said, where it was more so like, I don't want people to think that I'm okay with this product because I'm not, as he shouldn't be. Like Trevor Lawrence is in his fourth year. He just got paid. You invested in some offensive pieces to help this offense, and it still came up a little bit short from what you wanted against mediocre, average-ish defense, and now you're going to face a couple tough defenses the next 2 weeks. So I'm sure there is a little bit of frustration around that, and so maybe it was that. Maybe it was Doug just being like, look, I care, and I'm not going to pretend like everything's great because there's a lot of things to take out of this game that weren't great.
Yeah, and we're done talking about the 2023 season, but if you're Doug, you lost 5 out of the last 6 and you lose week 1. So you've lost 6 out of the last 7. He's still going to think about last season and the way things ended.
Well, he said he'd never forget it. So.
Exactly. So that's still all in there. And so, yeah, he was a little different personality-wise than what we're used to. But at the same time, if it does help the team to get fired up and to hold on to the ball, ETN, or to catch the ball, Kirk, on Sunday against the Browns, then it worked. All right, let's hear from Doug when he was asked why BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., was not targeted in the second half.
Nothing in the game plan that took us away from not throwing it to Brian or not throwing it to Gabe or Christian. You know, if you go back and look at some of the third downs that we had, you know, they were in unique situations that, and they were third and really long and gave up a couple sacks in those situations too.
That's what it was. The offensive line that had been dominating allowed the sacks.
That's why Brian didn't get the ball.
Look, I don't want to say there was separation. There was not separation. We read off the numbers yesterday, Taylor, with regards to the average yards of separation created by wide receivers, tight ends, running backs in the passing game across the league, average compared to the Jags. The numbers are there to suggest there was space and time.
There's like almost a yard more than average between all of them except for Evan Ingram.
And then I listened to, former players like Jeff Lageman and Tony Baselli, and they say if you look at those 2 sacks to end the Jaguars' final offensive series, no one's open. And so I don't want to speculate on whether or not players were running free and open and there was opportunity to get Brian Thomas Jr. the ball, and it just didn't happen. The reality is that this is a team that last year was criticized because it wasn't running the ball at all. And the idea of, well, the short passing game is an extension of the run game. But they weren't even throwing short passes on Sunday. It was just, I don't know what it was in the fourth quarter. Because it wasn't even, like, if you were throwing bubble screens, if you were throwing screens, I'd just be like, okay, this is, the press West Coast Doug offense doing its thing. Like, okay, like, do I agree?
But that wasn't even happening.
They weren't even doing that. Yeah. And that's where you can't help but watch it and not feel like this is a conservative play call to sit on a lead, just at the surface level.
Yeah. 3 and outs are the most dangerous thing in the NFL, especially when you're playing a team with as much speed and explosiveness as the Dolphins had. And that the Jaguars in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, they had 3 and outs, and that was a massive issue.
Yeah, and that's what one of the stats I read yesterday was they were 2 for 10 on third downs. That's just something you cannot let happen, and especially like you said, when those are going into 3 and outs, it goes down. And I know, like you just said, everyone's like, let's stop talking about last year. But some of the issues we saw late in last year that we were saying, oh, it was injury, same things were kind of happening when it came to the struggles on third downs and when it came to the situational play calling that really didn't make sense the whole entire game. So I'm sure that there is frustrations bleeding in from last year to this year and saying, okay, we thought that week 1 we would be able to, you knew you were going up against an offense that was strong. We all said, okay, that's probably going to be a high scoring game because it's
probably going to be a shootout.
Yeah, because it's going to be 2 teams that feel like their offenses are going to be able to be there, very high powered, and neither was that. So it wasn't like the Jags just did that too. It took Miami 3 quarters to almost a full third quarter to really get going. And then for some reason, the Jags yet again, the storyline of all last year of that collapse at the end and the collapse at the end of games happened again at this game. So they do have to figure out why certain things get abandoned when you feel like they shouldn't, and why the third downs are just such an issue. Why at least the red zone looked better because they did score both of the times they were in the red zone. So that's a positive because that was a big thing from last year.
Other than, I guess, the ETN fumble.
The fumble, yeah. So it's just one of those moments where
by the way, I do want to give the Jags kudos for the red zone success outside of obviously the ETN fumble, which again, that's kind of situational and a great play by Javon Holland, because I thought the 49ers definitely struggled when the field was compressed and they were in the red zone. And credit to Jake Moody of his 6 field goals last night. And we'll take the points, especially in that game. But it was a little bit of like solace in being like, oh, look, this is a team that was in the Super Bowl last year and returned almost their entire roster. And they can't score once they get within 20 yards of the end zone.
Yeah, and I will, coming up when I do my tangent brought to you by Chick-fil-A, it is going to be focused on it wasn't just the Jags offense that struggled. There was a lot of offenses that struggled this season, and I'm going to get in some of those numbers because it wasn't just here. And some of that, I think we may have to start thinking about, does it hurt when you're not playing in preseasons? Because it's definitely affected teams the last few years.
Yep, we had a Healigan who already texted in after our discussion regarding the Jets, Christian McCaffrey, and the 49ers. Real quick on the offensive front, because I know we do want to hear that saucy comment from Doug with regards to the defense. From 903 on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, why not tell Evan to run 5 yards, turn around, and get some easy completions and get ahead of the chains? That is certainly a hallmark of Doug Peterson, Press Taylor, this offense over the last 2 years. It was surprising that you didn't see more of that. I'm not sure if the Dolphins took it away or if Evan Ingram wasn't asked to do that. But what I can tell you, and the reason I read this Healigan's text to us, this is from MB Fantasy, or Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life from Ian Harteds. NFL tight ends combined for just 1,099 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns across the league week 1. That is the lowest single week total over the past 5 years in the National Football League. So maybe that's just a coinky-dink that a guy who came 1 catch away from setting the single-season tight end reception mark in the National Football League last year only had 1 catch on Sunday. But that's certainly interesting that those two things lined up.
And I think you do have to start focusing on, too, and I think, Mia, you mentioned this yesterday, or maybe, honestly, it might have been primetime, actually. I think Leon said this about when Trevor's back is to the wall, how comfortable is he in taking this team to the next level? Because on the end, the Jags offense got the ball back with 4 minutes, and it went tackle, no gain, sack, delay of game before the punt and punt. And that's, you get 4 minutes, you score like that. You're back in the game easily. And so those are the moments that everybody in the National Football League are going to be watching Trevor in those moments. And that's how they're going to base their entire theory of what Trevor Lawrence is.
A couple more comments from Doug. Sorry, Mia, go ahead.
Real quick, let's hit an old friend alert, if you may, RJ Saunders.
That just happened. Brought to you by Florida Home AC, the official air conditioning partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, come on. You know we can't quit 45 on this show. The Raiders are expected to sign former Jaguars first-rounder Kayvon Chaisson, who was released by the Carolina Panthers last week after signing a $5+ million incentive-laden deal back in April.
Interesting. So I guess Kayvon reunited with Gardner Minshew.
Reunited with Gardner, and if he sticks around in Vegas, I guess the Jags will see him a little bit later this year when we're out in Vegas with them.
That should be fun for the Jaguars' offensive line, truth be told. All right, a couple more from Doug Peterson. We just talked about the quarterback sneak earlier in the show and why Trevor didn't sneak it on 3rd and short or 4th and short. Here's Doug on why they don't use the quarterback sneak more.
Yeah, those work. They do work. It was more than a yard. It was about a yard in the ball, so it's a little bit harder in those situations, to get the full 1.5 yards on a sneak. And we look for opportunities. I mean, even on the 4th down play, it was you saw Trevor, stand up and gesture and do different things, and there are opportunities, but when the look doesn't present itself, we have to do something else. But we'll always look for opportunities to sneak the football.
I feel like Trevor saw something he didn't like, and that's what it kind of came down to, which I don't know. We won't know unless maybe someone will talk to Trevor and ask, and he'll say that. But it is interesting because it's something that last year almost became a joke where it's like, just spread your arm out and you get a first down.
But then Matt Ryan, among some of the media members who criticized him.
That for doing it.
Right. Yeah. And that unless you're on the goal line and it's a do or die situation and it's to get into the end zone, don't do it.
Yeah.
And even then, Trevor did it against the Titans week 18 and it didn't work out. Yeah. And if you go back to that Chargers playoff game, that was an audible. Doug Peterson did not tell him to do that, and then he did, and he got away with it, and so he got away with it time and time again. But look, I mean, can't help but laugh because this all goes back to his rookie year with Urban when the quarterback sneak wasn't ready. Like, that's where it's funny on the surface, but it's also frustrating because, like, we used to joke about, oh, the quarterback sneak's not ready, and but now it's like, no, literally, like, the Philadelphia Eagles lose Jason Kelce, who, of course, was a big reason for the brotherly push and the reason it had so much success over the past 2 years. You lose him to retirement, and yes, it doesn't look quite like it did with Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson leading the way as it did with Kelce, but they understand you can't go away from that.
Because it's all about leverage. If your offensive lineman can get lower than the defensive lineman.
Which is why you brought Mitch in.
Right. And get 1 yard or a yard and a football, even if it's a yard and a half, that's an important play you have to use. All right. Now let's get to the other side of the ball. Doug was asked about the big plays that went to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
I'll say this, and I'll never do this. We have to coach the play better. And it's the play they ran all game.
I'm going to say this. I never do this. I was a little confused by where he was like, I'm going to call him out, but I'm never going to call somebody out, but I'm going to call somebody out in this moment.
So let's go to some more stats. This is from Derek Klass of the Athletic Football Show. According to True Media, the Jaguars defense held the Dolphins offense to a 43.1% success rate. That would have been Miami's 5th worst performance last year, which that would have been sandwiched between their Week 9 21-14 loss to Kansas City and their Week 18 21-14 loss to the Buffalo Bills, which, if your defense is operating at the efficiency that those two defenses were, I mean, I vividly remember that Chiefs game in particular because that was a real coming out party for the Kansas City Chiefs defense because they quite literally had to hold the fort down as the offense sputtered in the second half of that game. And so if you're performing at that level and you're holding that offense to that threshold, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And I think that Doug, again, this kind of speaks to the philosophical leadership perspective of you can be tough on someone because you know they'll accept it and they want that coaching. And so maybe, again, I don't know anything, but maybe that's what Doug and Ryan Nielsen, that's their relationship, and he knows that Ryan and these coaches, he can push them harder. He can say things about them in the media sphere, and it's not going to be taken personally. It's going to be taken to heart, and this recognition of, hey, we did have a great outing, but we know that there are still things we need to improve upon. Whereas, maybe there's some people, and again, this isn't just Doug. This is philosophically, as someone who manages a department, like I can tell you, like, some people you can put on blast. Some people you can't because you have to understand how they will react to that. So, maybe there's some people in that building down there at the Miller Electric Center that Doug knows he can't call out because it would not be received and implemented and reinforced the same way as some other individuals.
It also may not be a Ryan Nielsen thing. It could be a position coach thing. It could be a Chris Richard thing. And maybe that's a relationship they have. Everyone immediately assumed that it was anti-Ryan Nielsen. I don't know that it necessarily was that. I think in the end, sometimes you need that kind of energy. And it may be a little early from what we were expecting in that week 1 and you lost a close game. But at the same time, like I said before, if this gets the defense to play even better than it did in week 1, if this gets the offense to have more rhythm than it did week 1, then those are all great things, and take that energy and take that criticism and use it to be constructive and go out and win a freaking football game on Sunday. I want to get to the roster moves on the other side that were made, as well as our highlights. And we want to remember one of the greatest voices of all time who passed away yesterday at the age of 93, James Earl Jones. You are listening to 1010XL 92.5 FM.
That's right, I'm Tommy Mack, and it's all about Duval and defense. Offense, special teams, baby. Check me out every Friday from 10 to noon on Jaguars Today.
Brought to you by Renewal by Anderson Windows and Doors on 1010XL. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Winning season is back, football is back, and MyBookie is here to make sure you're ready to cash in on the action. Mia here, and this season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions like weekly risk-free boosts on Thursdays, where you can bet without a sweat. How about some Thursday night football action, as a matter of fact, with those dreaded Miami Dolphins? Now, wow, the line actually moved as I'm reading this commercial. Now 2-point favorites against the visiting Buffalo Bills. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, forget about it. MyBookie will refund your wager for that game or any other at mybookie.ag. That's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super Survivor and Squares contests. Get your entries in now for a shot at huge cash rewards. And don't forget to use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. You heard that right. Double your money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
Mortgage rates have plummeted, and Loan Pronto clients are locking in the lowest rates we've seen in years. Hey, it's Roger Moore, founder and CEO of Loan Pronto. It's happening. We are finally locking APRs in the 5s, something we haven't seen for a long time. If that sky-high rate is killing you or you need to get cash out of your home equity, now is the time to take action. Or listen, even if you want to keep that first mortgage rate intact, you can take advantage of lower rates with our Equity Express line of credit. We're seeing homeowners take 50, 75, 200 grand or more out of their equity and wiping out that high-interest debt with an average savings of $850 per month. Bottom line, your home value is way up and mortgage rates have come way down, making this a great time to act. Call today for a 30-second rate quote. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 mortgage payments. 904-999-1508. 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. 904-999-1508.
Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org.
September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, so here's a reminder to get screened. Ackerman Cancer Center offers on-site imaging, including total body MRI. Early detection is the key. Visit AckermanCancerCenter.com.
When all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. I'm Dr. George Bari, and like me, I know you have been bombarded with PRP and stem cell treatments from companies that promise the world and charge prices to match. Or the surgeon that convinced you the only way to treat your injuries through surgery. At Bari Orthopedics, we offer the best PRP treatment on the market with prices that won't cost you an arm and a leg. We also have the expertise to treat your injury surgically if that is what it entails. We can discuss all surgical and non-surgical options with you and make sure you get the best treatment available. Come see me, Dr. George Bari at Bari Orthopedics.
Most goals have a clear course, like planning a trip. But when it comes to losing 40 or 50 pounds, that's a different story. Except with Awaken 180. A clear course to fast, proven weight loss with free support for life. It's Awaken180weightloss.com.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
Oh my goodness. Fishing is more fun when you catch something.
Yeah!
Listen for the Wind Power Fishing Forecast Show with Captain Kevin. Woo-hoo! Brought to you by Veterans Wholesale Cabinets and Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Hey, this is Bert Cannon with the First Coast YMCA. Youth sports at the Y can help nurture your future athlete's potential and experience the joy of being a kid. At the Y, we're providing a safe, clean, and fun environment with basketball, soccer, volleyball, gymnastics, elite skills training, and more. Best of all, participation in Legacy Youth Sports League is free with your family membership. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports at the Y.
Jacksonville's building a fence along the goal line. This is the Superior Fence and Rail Defensive Player of the Game. Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters.
Trayvon Walker beasted and feasted for the Teal and Black in the Sunshine State. The defensive end tallied 6 total tackles while in Miami and pitched in 2 sacks in what was a strong showing. Numbers like this will have the rest of the league talking and certainly give him confidence to continue to dominate. Trayvon Walker is your Superior Fence and Rail's defensive player of the game.
If you're tired of your fence looking like a bad hair day, well, it's time for a fence makeover with Superior Fence and Rail. They'll make your yard the talk of the town with a new fence installed by their expert team.
Your fence is fantastic. My fence is giving all of my neighbors some serious pick and envy. Thanks, Superior Fence and Rail.
So get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail for your fence installation project today.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Solid
Salvatore's famous pizza now in Jacksonville, Tapestry Park off Southside Boulevard. In honor of our favorite player, number 16, Salvatore's large pizza with lots of mozzarella and one topping, only $16. Coupon at salvatores.com. Dine in, pick up, and delivery. $16 for a large Salvatore's pizza with lots of mozzarella and one topping. Coupon at salvatores.com. Tax and delivery extra.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. Hurricanes happen in Florida. That's not news. But what happens even more often than hurricanes are home break-ins. And if security is important to you, you might want to look into hurricane-rated impact windows.
What you may not know is that hurricane-rated impact windows not only help protect your home in case of a hurricane, but they also offer another level of security for your home.
Have you seen those videos on YouTube that show people trying to break through an impact window? A thief is way too lazy to spend his energy trying to break through one of our impact windows. That's why he doesn't have a real job like you. He'd rather break your non-impact window while you're at work. Window World has high-quality, very affordable hurricane-rated impact windows to help protect your home from hurricanes and from lazy thieves.
Call us today at 904-443-7001. Get a free estimate and see for yourself. You save energy, get more security, and the windows add value to your home. With all Window World windows, you get the best guarantee in the window replacement business.
Window World, simply the best for less. And thank you for your business.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by Riddle Wellness. Florida State Seminoles head coach Mike Norvell announced running back Jalen Lucas will be out for the remainder of the season due to an injury in their game against Boston College. Norvell met with the media to discuss Lucas's injury and his future as a Seminole.
Jalen Lucas will be out for the year, sustained an injury there in our last game. Disappointed for the young man. Very talented player, explosive athlete for us. Unfortunately, he had an injury that will keep him out for the rest of the season. He does have a red shirt available, so he does have a couple years eligibility left with that. Know he's going to do a great job of being able to continue to help the guys that are there on the field, but still very excited about what his future is going to be as a Seminole, but it is unfortunate we're going to lose him for the rest of the season.
With Lucas out, this gives some of the younger backs opportunities, such as Mekhi Danzy and Cam Davis, to fill the void. It's 82 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Active Health Jacks Tuesday. Like I said, if you're in pain and you want to avoid surgery, cortisone injections, and pain medications, give them a call 904-296-0202 or visit them online, activehealthjacks.com. I promise they can help you as they will treat the source of the problem, not just the pain. A few roster moves that have happened since yesterday. The Steelers signed Jaguars safety Terrell Edmunds off the practice squad. Obviously, Terrell Edmunds got in the game and was active this past Sunday because of the fact that the Jaguars did not have Daniel Thomas, but he wasn't elevated off the practice squad in general. He wasn't on the 53-man active roster. That's why the Steelers could go ahead and sign him. I feel like that's a little bit of a blow if DT, Daniel Thomas, can't be healthy for this coming week.
Definitely, because then who's your next man in line? I mean, I think there's a big question mark there. That's part of why the Jaguars were so excited to get Terrell Edmunds to the practice squad, not just because DT was a little bit banged up coming out of training camp, but just in general. That's the beauty of the practice squad, that you can now have those vested veterans there, which obviously they didn't protect Edmunds going into week 2, which is a little interesting to me, especially since you just called him up.
Hopefully that means Daniel Thomas is healthy.
Right, but also I would think he would be one of those priority protections just because of what he provides for you, especially knowing, depending on what you view Darnell Savage as on this roster, you have 4 safeties. And if that, that's even a question mark, right? Because you've got Antonio Johnson, Andre Sisco, Darnell Savage, if you want to include him, DT, who did not make the trip to Miami this weekend.
And Andrew Wingard's still on IR.
Who's on IR. Yeah. So now you're looking at 3, but then Savage is more of a nickel, so he's more of a corner because you only kept 5 defensive backs on the 53-man roster. So it's all very fascinating to me to see that news late yesterday.
Maybe Braswell comes back into play.
Because he can play nickel for you, right? You elevate him.
And then have Savage more so as
safety.
Because then the other side of this, too, that we talked a little bit about yesterday, I mean, we don't have a timetable right now. Doug Peterson couldn't give one for Tyson Campbell. And if Tyson Campbell it can't go for several weeks, who steps in for him on the outside? The obvious would be Buster Brown, who came in for him on
Trey
Sunday.
Prince is there.
Trey Prince is there, or do you try Jarian on the outside? Jarian told me he's prepared for whatever they need him to play.
If you can cover Tyreek Hill, then you can play outside corner in this league, in my opinion.
Right, he was more
doesn't have the size.
He was in the slot on that.
But I'm just saying the speed.
Yeah,
right. Which interesting stat on that front from Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. He just posted this. The Jags played 12 snaps in dime formation all of last year. They played 11 snaps in dime formation.
12 in an entire year?
Yes.
You saw a
Interesting.
lot.
Yes. And I think a lot of that is to get Jarian Jones, to get your best players onto the field. And again, countering the whatever you want to call that Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill dynamic duo. I was going to call it a 3-headed monster. I don't know who the third is. It feels like there's a third, but it's just
Devon A. Chan, even though he's not a receiver,
yeah,
certainly is a good receiver out of the backfield.
Right. And so having more defensive backs because then they can get out in space. And,
yeah. Well, I think this is exactly why all three of us were shocked when we went through the depth chart came out, because I had Braswell and Edmonds on mine, and this is exactly the reason why I had both of them on my 53-man.
Yep. I think we did too. I know I for sure had, all three of us had Edmonds. A couple other roster notes. The Browns added Kadarius Toney to their practice squad. Not sure if he'll actually be elevated to play on Sunday. And then the Browns also signed linebacker Khaleke Hudson off of the Saints practice squad. They have some linebackers that are banged up. And then they also, as I told you yesterday, David Njoku has the high ankle sprain, so he'll be out for a few weeks. And so today they tried out Irv Smith, Tommy Sweeney, and old Jaguars friend Jeff Swaim.
Interesting.
Interesting is right. All right, time now for our Heels highlights. RJ, take it away.
DeMarcus Walker just wrecked this play and Tyreek Stevenson turned it into a game changer.
On 3rd down and 6, here they come. Gordon's coming. Levis gets wrapped up, flings it ahead. It's picked off. Tyreek Stevenson will give the Bears the lead on another defensive play.
Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston lead the Fever past the dream in OT, and yes, the WNBA season is still going on.
She'll get it into Clark. Clark going behind the back, trying to create off the Boston screen. Back to Boston. Boston turns the corner, gets to the rim, and ties the game.
DJ Lagway records his first career touchdown pass to put Florida up 21-0 over Samford.
Lagway all the way down the middle of the field for Hawkins, and he's got it! Touchdown, Gators!
You might catch me. The Bears did beat the Titans. They did. I'm sure that was a very stressful game for you and for all Bears fans, considering the Titans were up 17-0, which was shocking to most of us that were just scoreboard watching, which would have been, I think, all Jaguars fans locked into the Jags game. And then Caitlin Clark, I loved how the lady said the WNBA season is still going.
Yeah, that's what I wrote for. That's what I wrote.
By the way, we're still here.
I had to write that out for RJ because, I know you probably like, oh my God, Mia picked another Caitlin Clark highlight. But look, I'm not going to lie. I think on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night during football season, we're not going to get Maction for a couple of weeks. I love having some Fever games to come home to. The Fever are back in action tomorrow night on national TV, by the way.
How many games are left?
So they start the playoffs on they have 3 regular season games left. They start the playoffs on the 22nd.
By the way, this is how Major League Baseball feels. Unless your team is one of the better ones and in contention, this is
the last month you're kind of like,
this is how once football starts, I feel like casual baseball fans are like, peace out.
Right. Well, that's what's interesting enough. I mean, we have the 2 TV setup going in my living room right now for football season. But Caitlin Clark and the Fever went up against the Friday night Packers-Eagles game. 3rd most watched WNBA broadcast ever this season, 1.26 million people.
Was the Fever game streaming, or was that?
No, it was on national TV.
So I do think that may help because of the fact that the football game Friday night was
on Peacock.
Streaming.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder if that's a factor.
Because I know that we were at a watch party at a friend's house, and then we went to a bar, and a lot of the bars don't have and can't have Peacock because they have to pay. I think it's like $3,000 for the season to be able to have Peacock in their bar. So I do think that majorly affects.
Because I questioned the Fever played on Sunday at 4:00 on national TV, and I was like, why are you doing this? this. This is dumb. You're going up against the big bad NFL. But I mean, look, Sunday, yeah, that's a bold strategy, Con.
Yeah.
I would not go that way. But the fact that they did have over 1 million people watching on a Friday night speaks to, if nothing else, the Caitlin Clark effect. But also, like I said, like what else tomorrow night when you go home and you want to turn on the TV, what sports outside of the baseball fans, of course, whose baseball teams are still in contention? Sorry to those of you out there who your team is not in contention. Like what else sports-wise are you going to watch? Besides, like, there's no Hard Knocks yet.
Yeah.
Bueller? That's the beauty of this. So that's why I love a good Wednesday night. I'm like, that's, again, just like we talked about over the summer, capitalizing on the dog days of summer when you have baseball and you have nothing else because the NFL is in its dead period. I'm okay with that. But yeah, shout out to the Indiana Fever. Some stats for y'all. A 30-piece for Aaliyah Boston, double-double for her and Caitlin Clark in that win over the Fever. Caitlin Clark and the Fever, 8-2 since the Olympic break. Lexi Hull has shot 70% from three-point land since the Olympic break.
My goodness.
Shooting nearly 50% on the season. Leads all scorers in the WNBA from three-point range. The Fever won 18 games in their 83 games before Caitlin Clark got to Indianapolis. They have now won 19 in the 36 games that she has been a member of the Indiana Fever. And there are those of you who are tuning out because, oh my God, why are we talking about Caitlin and women's sports? Oh my God. This is a prime example, and I don't want to compare basketball to football to baseball. When else have we seen a number 1 overall pick go to a team that, much like the Jaguars, much like the San Antonio Spurs of late, perpetually was picking first or second overall for the better part of the last 5 years, and they have gone from worst to first? We talk about it all the time. I know that Taylor's hoping that Caitlin Clark effect carries over in Chicago with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. But it's just one of those things that we love to talk about, but we truly rarely see that worst to first, and we are seeing it before our eyes.
I'm assuming the Bengals would have been in that category because Burrow was picked first overall.
No, but then they didn't make the playoffs his first year. They were 4
because he was hurt.
Because he got hurt. Yeah. So the second year, yes. But that first year, there weren't returns on the investment. What's crazy with this, and I tweeted out the meme that so many of you out there used when Trevor Lawrence was playing for the Jaguars under Urban Meyer in 2021 of the Ferrari in the questionable neighborhood. I felt like that the whole first month of the WNBA season, and now I'm like, man, credit to Caitlin, credit to this staff for just keeping at it and finding a way to gel. And you can't guarantee that's going to happen, but this is the same exact roster. They didn't make any roster moves since the start of the season, and they have found a way. And so that is where, maybe that's a big picture, optimistic view of whoever you root for, that, yes, sometimes just chipping at that rock and trying to just keep at it, you can find a way with the roster you have, so long as you are willing to adjust. Because for a great example, Lexi Hull did not play in the Fever. I believe it was their first 8 of their first 12 games. Coach's decision. And now she shoots 70% over the last 10 games.
All right, let's get it to Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, and the Bears. Like I said, a very stressful game, but also I think all Jaguars fans are rooting for the Bears over the next 2 weeks as they take on the Texans and the Colts, right after already beating the Titans.
Yeah, offensively, not pretty at all. I mean, Caleb had some big misses. There were some moments like Keenan Allen dropped one in the end zone that would have been another, I think a 40-yard touchdown. And in his hands dropped it. Rome dropped one that turned into a fumble. Tevin Jenkins fell on it. That would have been another probably 25 yards. So those are the moments that if you're not watching the game, you were missing. And it was moments that Caleb was playing well. But he was overthrowing some stuff. And I've said for weeks that I expected it to take some time. It's like you have a new quarterback, 2 new wide receivers, a new tight end, a new running back, 2 new offensive linemen. There's a lot of new on that offense. And, oh, by the way, a quarterback who's never played a regular season game in the NFL. So I've said on my podcast for months, like, don't expect this to be some like high-flying offense in the first 2-3 weeks. It's just not going to happen because it's going to take time for them to really start playing well together. But I mentioned the quote last week of Ryan Poles, and Ryan Poles said, I've built this roster to where Caleb doesn't have to play hero. Caleb doesn't have to be perfect or even great or even good right away because he has built a defense that can help him out. And there's other guys that can make plays. And even towards the end of the game, he was getting some first downs driving down the field to keep the ball out of the Titans' hands. But yeah, Will Levis struggled. I mean, it was bad. There was some throws where I'm like, I don't even know where that was going, to be completely honest. The one pick with Tyreek Stevenson, that was this terrible. And the graphic went viral because he's like on his knees with his hands on his head, like, oh, I just did that. And even one of their coaches joked and was like, we could have punted on 1st and 10 and probably won because like the Bears offensively couldn't score. We had a 2-point conversion and then 2 defensive touchdowns, or a special teams touchdown, defensive touchdown, 2-point conversion. Very weird game. But yeah, it's one of those moments where I think that some people maybe in the world of Chicago are like, here we go again. Like, this is what happens with quarterbacks. And I just keep being like, just breathe for a second. And as I said, I'll get to my tangent of everybody else that struggled in the NFL in week 1 offensively. And that's guys who have been in the league in 4+ years. So just give it a little bit of time. But thank God the defense, like Jalen Johnson is just insane. He allowed 1 catch for -2 yards, and the passer rating allowed against him was 2.9. Like, he's so good.
Injury update on Rome and Keenan Allen.
So MCL tear, but they said grade 1 for Rome.
But it was
or
a tear.
sprain, sorry.
Okay, I was going to say. Yeah.
MCL sprain, grade 1. So they said week to week. We will see. That was towards a little bit later in the game on the play that happened. Keenan had been banged up kind of all week and ended up playing through the injury. It seems like he'll be fine. DJ Moore also got banged up during the game too. They said he'll be fine. Eberflus pretty much just said, my main concern is Rome Odunze. He's week to week. The rest should be okay.
Have we ever had this many MCL injuries, Lauren, in the
one
span
after
of
another.
a week?
It's like insane.
Everybody's got an MCL. We no longer talk about ACLs.
That's what Jordan Love got. Love had 2.
And
His is a little worse
David
than Rome's.
Njoku is an MCL.
Njoku.
And he's was scheduled to be coming here to Jacksonville this weekend. And now, as Lauren already told us at the top of the hour, the Cleveland Browns are having to bring in tight ends on a tryout basis.
Yeah. And my highlight, no surprise, DJ Lagway got his first start against Samford. Yes, it was just Samford. We'll see what happens this coming week against Texas A&M as far as how Billy Napier wants to utilize the 2-quarterback system with Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. But as far as a first start goes, to have over 450 passing yards, to have 3 passing touchdowns, to look the way you did, it couldn't have gone any better. And that's why, if there's any optimism for the rest of the Gators season, it all goes through DJ Lagway. All right, Taylor's Tangent is next. When we return, we'll remember James Earl Jones coming up later in the program as well. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on an Active Health Jacks Tuesday on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
This hour of Helmets and Heels is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers. In every game, there's a limited number of drives.
Our best, here we go!
And there's only one drive of the game.
That's a good old-fashioned rear-end whipping.
Listen for the Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville drive of the game on 1010XL.
Now at Hodges Mazda, get ready for an incredible offer and drive home the 2024 Mazda CX-5 with 0% APR for 36 months. Lauren Brooks here. The Mazda CX-5 combines sleek design, advanced technology, and a responsive drive, making it the ideal SUV for your everyday adventures. Discover the Hodges Mazda difference with our non-commissioned sales team who are always focused on your best interest first. Plus, you'll get 2 years of free maintenance. Visit Hodges Mazda today or shop online at hodgesmazda.com. See dealer for details. Terms and fees for qualified applicants expire September 30th, 2024.
Bueller Air and Plumbing presents Are You Cool?
Today's contestant, a dust bunny breeder from Jacksonville, Florida, meet Steve Johnson.
Welcome to the show, Steve. It's great to be here, Alex.
Yeah, you don't have to answer in the form of a question, Steve.
What is this game show?
See, that's another question.
Are you going to ask me about air conditioners?
Yeah, okay. How about we just send the Bueller guys over and you can annoy them with all your questions? Johnny?
That's right, Steve. Bueller Air and Plumbing can answer all your air conditioning questions, repair options, replacement models, and how to make your AC last longer while saving electricity, making sure you are cool.
Where is the parking lot?
You're killing me, Steve.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Hey guys, this is David Garrard, and I want to tell you about Clearwater Irrigation. They put my new sprinkler system in at my new home at Jack's Beach, and I couldn't be happier. Oh, hey John.
What's up, Dave? You know what this means. You're gonna have to sing.
Man, I can't sing.
Then you'll fit right in, buddy. Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers. Hit it, Dave.
And drainage too.
ClearwaterJacks.com.
Guys, feeling deflated in the bedroom? ED, low T, no energy? If your stuff is broken, call 904-STROKEN or 904stroken.com. No shots in the first treatment, now free. Fix your ED at 904stroken.com.
Being the primary breadwinner in your marriage is a huge responsibility, but that doesn't mean you should continue to be the primary breadwinner after your divorce, too. The attorneys at the Florida Women's Law Group work hard to make sure you're not responsible for supporting your ex any more than necessary. I'm Heather Quick, owner and attorney. Learn how we can help at FloridaWomen'sLawGroup.com or call us 904-204-2359. Divorce for women, by women. Offices, Jacksonville and St. John's.
This is Tony Baselli, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I was known for protecting our quarterback. These days, I'm extending that protection to a different arena, your home. I have partnered with Heritage Roofing of North Florida, your premier local roofers with over 25 years of experience. Heritage is your go-to roofer for hurricane preparation with same-day inspections and estimates. They also work with all insurance companies. Let Heritage Roofing of North Florida safeguard your home and family. Visit heritagenfl.com for your free estimate today.
State license CCC 1335410. Tony Baselli gets up early Monday morning to share a big football breakfast with you.
Some French toast and sausage patties.
Hall of Fame Monday, 7:20 with Dan and Jeff on the drill. Brought to you by Heritage Roofing of North Florida on 1010XL.
Grab your lucky spot on the couch because traditions make Sunday easy to enjoy. Bud Light, easy to Sunday, easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus. Copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch. Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Roof damage? Call before you claim. Green Law Group, fighting insurance companies for you. They will work for you when you have roof damage. Don't let your insurance deny you. Don't call an adjuster. Call Green Law Group at 904-302-7055. Remember, if you have roof damage, call Green Law Group before you claim. They've settled millions and will work hard to get your claim and new roof. Green Law Group. Call before you claim. 904-302-7055.
Well, all the news forecasts say that home prices are expected to decline in 2025. Hey, that's great if you're buying a home. But if you're selling one, you might want to get to it. And when it comes to selling your home, the agents you should trust are Chad and Sandy Newman at chadandsandy.com. Maybe you want maximum equity from your home, but you're not sure how. And you don't want to worry about costly repairs or upgrades needed to sell your home. Those things are all out with Chad and Sandy. They're the local real estate experts you can trust, and I recommend for the sale of your home, or for the sale of mine for that matter. Maybe I should look into it. Hey, don't trust me. Trust Jacqueline from Biscayne Estates. My inherited home became a nightmare when it went unsold for 177 days and ended up with a large lien. With expenses mounting for my handicapped daughter and no way to pay, I was desperate. At this point, I turned to Chad and Sandy. The change was amazing. Chad and Sandy sold my home in 3 days at a higher than asking price. Find out for yourself at chadandsandy.com or 904-414-6200.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
You're listening to Helmets and Heels.
Illuminated by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Perfect timing to get some Chick-fil-A milkshakes.
Yes, this banana milkshake. It was funny because I had 3 different people come up to me over the weekend and be like, I heard you talking about that banana milkshake. I was like, it was so good. You have to go try it. And so 2 friends literally over the weekend went and got it because, as I said, it's the banana pudding milkshake. And if you like banana pudding, you will love this thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I also have friends that are obsessed with the honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich.
And I haven't tried it yet, and I need to try it because it's everything I
like.
like.
raved about it last year, and then when it came back out, I was in a group text saying, like, you have to go
time.
get this. Yeah, so make sure, people swing by Chick-fil-A for all that. And speaking of Chick-fil-A, here is Taylor's Tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So as I've mentioned a few times today, the struggles of offenses throughout the NFL in week 1, it was very obvious, but it got me thinking. So I went back and I was looking at the numbers from last year's week 1 and this year's week 1 because I first wanted to see how different the 2 weeks were. Like, was this a weird year, or was last year, have we seen something similar the last couple years? And that's obviously when we've gotten less preseason games. You're seeing a lot less people, even starters, starting in general. And so I just kind of wanted to see some of these numbers. So I started with last year. And so going back to that, in week 1 of the NFL last year, so there was 37 touchdowns thrown and 25 interceptions in week 1. There was a 211-yard average for all the quarterbacks combined during that time in week 1. So 14 quarterbacks had passing yards under 200 yards. 8 quarterbacks had 0 touchdowns. 18 quarterbacks threw an interception. Only 4 quarterbacks last year in week 1 had over 300 yards, and only 10 quarterbacks had more than 1 touchdown last year. So I'm like, okay, that already doesn't seem like very good numbers. So let's look over to what happened in this week 1, and it was even worse than it was last year. So 34 touchdowns thrown, 23 interceptions thrown, actually 263-yard average. So the yard average was a little bit higher than last year, but the touchdowns were less. But also 17 quarterbacks had under 200 yards in week 1 this week. 9 quarterbacks had 0 touchdowns. 16 quarterbacks threw interceptions. Only 2 quarterbacks had over 300 yards, and only 8 quarterbacks had more than 1 touchdown in week 1. And so to me, there's a lot of things that probably factor into this. We've talked about how it takes some time for offenses to really start going. There were a lot of newer, 3 rookie quarterbacks obviously started. Aaron Rodgers coming back from an injury. You saw Kirk Cousins on a new team. You saw Justin Fields and Russell Wilson on a new team. There was a lot of movement. So there were a lot of quarterbacks that were starting on new teams this season or starting for the first time in the NFL in general. So that's something to keep an eye out, though. But the one thing that really fascinated me when I went back and I compared last year's that week 1 total to week 2 and how much that significantly jumped between week 1 and 2. So as I mentioned, 37 touchdowns were thrown in week 1 last year. In week 2, it bumped up to 49 touchdowns. So 12 more touchdowns thrown in compared from week 1 to week 2 last year. And so it went from 8 quarterbacks who had no touchdowns down to 3 quarterbacks who had no touchdowns. It went from, under 300 or under to 14 quarterbacks in week 1 had under 200 yards. Only 6 quarterbacks had under 200 yards in week 2 last year. And then it went from 4 quarterbacks having over 300 yards to 10 quarterbacks having over 300 yards in just week 1 to week 2 last year.
So the hope is everybody is in this slow build. It takes time. Whether it's an offensive coordinator or a head coach calling plays, you're not doing too much that first week. You're just getting your feet wet a little bit.
But I will say some teams, though, let's say the Cowboys, for example, the quarterback didn't have to throw for over 200 yards for their offense and overall team to put a really nice product on display.
Yeah, he also only had 1 touchdown. So the defense had a touchdown, the running backs. And so that's what a lot of it was a lot of field goals, honestly. So their offense wasn't great, to be completely honest. He didn't have to throw, but also if the defense didn't score and his field goal kicker didn't make, I think it was 6 field goals,
right,
then
same
maybe
with the
Dallas
Niners.
wasn't going to win.
Right, same with the Niners. But Taylor, I know you also believe some of this has to do with the lack of teams playing their starters
together.
in the preseason.
I truly think that it factors in because I feel like the less we've seen players play in the preseason, the more struggles we see in week 1 especially. And I can go farther back. I only went back to last year, but I would almost put money on it that if we went back to before when we were seeing teams play a little bit more in the preseason and there were 4 games, that numbers were higher in the first week. I didn't look. I can go back. That could be my tangent tomorrow if I want to. The interesting thing too, as I was going, because obviously, as I mentioned, only 2 quarterbacks had over 300 yards, and that was Tua Tagovailoa and Matthew Stafford in this year. And then last year, again, only 4 had it, and it was also Tua Tagovailoa in week 1, but it was Kirk Cousins, Carr, and Mac Jones who were the ones that were over 300 yards in week 1 last year. So it was really, as I was going through and looking at these numbers, I was like, there's so many things that jumped out to me of teams that it was almost like the teams that ended up being really good kind of started, other than Tua, because obviously Miami was a playoff team, but the rest that played well in week 1, things fizzled off throughout the year, and then the teams that struggled week 1 started getting better throughout the season.
Which is why Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow say, relax, relax.
Joe Burrow 2 years ago threw 86 yards in his first game, so that's what I was like, everyone
and then they went to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, and it's why for me the Saints, they put up 47 points, but that's not a team I think that will be in the postseason.
They were also playing the Panthers, Lauren.
They were, and I know Bryce Young accounted for some of those interceptions like you talked about. It felt like there were a lot of pick sixes this past weekend too.
At least 3. I saw 3 between the games that I was actually physically watching and seeing 3 pick sixes.
Had Foye Oluokun, we talk so much about the ETN fumble and we talk about other plays that coulda, shoulda, woulda.
He was so mad at himself, you can tell.
If Foye had caught that ball, I think that would have been a pick six.
Yeah.
And again, the
changes the trajectory.
Totally changes the outcome of the game.
678 on the text line, design by Lifetime Enclosures. If the Jaguars offensive line played together in the preseason a little bit more, things would have gone differently. Along with Kirk, he didn't play at all, I believe. I forget how much Ingram played in the preseason. Christian Kirk played on the opening series against the Chiefs.
Our Chiefs, that's right.
Did not play joint practices, did not play against the Bucs or the Falcons. Evan Ingram did play against the Chiefs and the Falcons, but limited supply.
Yeah.
And the offensive line, it wasn't because Doug Peterson didn't want them to play. It's because several of them had sustained injuries. And so that's why all 5 didn't
Until the
play.
Falcons game, but even then they only had 2 drives together.
So there you have it. All right, we've got lunch for 2 right now. What color, Taylor?
We do. Lunch for 2 to Chick-fil-A. Let's say caller number 4, 641-1010.
There you go. 1 segment to go. We will let you hear a little bit from James Earl Jones as we remember him. Passed away yesterday at the age of 93. It is an Active Health Jacks Tuesday on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Helmets and heels.
This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers.
Right now, they're on their way to ruin your day. Don't bother calling the police. They can't help. And if you're not prepared, you will suffer. Yes, it's that time of the year. Heat and humidity are attacking North Florida. But help is at hand. Call Mike Merritt's Heating and Air Conditioning. Mike Merritt has a license to chill and lets you maintain your comfort zone at a bargain price. How? Mike Merritt stands ready to help, routine or emergencies. And Mike Merritt knows emergencies can happen at any time. So with Mike, there's never any overtime charges. And Mike's team works without commissions. Merritt will never try to sell you parts you don't need. You can't trust just anyone with a truck. Call Mike Merritt, the company North Florida has trusted for 35 years. Call today. License number CAC 050384.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question. Dream Finders Homes was the builder for me. A big reason why? Their unbeatable interest rates. Right now, you can take advantage of a 2.99% year 1 rate. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. I'll say it again, 2.99% year 1 rate. Dream Finders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Join Jim Furyk and other legends of the PGA Tour for the 4th annual Constellation Furyk and Friends, presented by Circle K, October 4th through 6th at Timuquana Country Club. Get your tickets now, starting at just $25 for grounds passes. And if you're a country music fan, grab your tickets to see Brothers Osborne at Daly's Place Tuesday, October 1st for the Furyk Foundation concert sponsored by Ring Power. Learn everything you need to know at ConstellationFurykandFriends.com.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904-395-5598.
What's changed totally inside and out? The Kuhn Flowers massive storefront, and yes, they've totally remodeled the showroom inside too. This is Frank Franzi, and the next time you drive by, stop and smell the roses at Kuhn Flowers.
Homeowners, good news for you. Accent on 4. Listen up. Loan Pronto now has mortgage rates that start with a 4. Prosser here. It's true. Mortgage rates have plummeted. so low we haven't seen them in a long time. If your current rate is over 6%, you can dump it and lower your house payment big time. Loan Pronto just locked in a homeowner at 4.99% APR. So whether you got your loan last week, last month, or last year, it's time to call Loan Pronto. Even if you're in process with another lender, stop now. Call Loan Pronto. Ask about their zero-cost rate reduction home loan. You can lock in a lower rate with no closing costs in a matter of days, with almost no paperwork and usually no appraisal. And if you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now. Loan Pronto can give you a rate quote in minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like those other guys. Call 904-999-1508 or loanpronto.com. Call 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166.781. Owner approved credit, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
Stay in touch with the stars of Coral Gables.
From South Beach to Jacks Beach, stay on A1A for the latest from Miami on the Hurricane Report.
Brought to you by Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
On 1010XL.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700. Office is Jacksonville, Florida. And don't let the state decide your fate.
Now, the Performance Painting High Performance Play of the Game. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
There's a duo in Jacksonville that's going to force opponents to get in asbestos suit because they're simply going to set the league on fire. In the second quarter, Trevor Lawrence would find Brian Thomas Jr. for a 14-yard touchdown. That would give the squad a 14-0 lead with 6:21 left in the half. The Thomas Jr. score is your Performance Painting Play of the Game.
Does the building you go to work in every day need a little love and attention? Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Great companies take great care of the buildings their staff and customers walk into every day. If the building you're in doesn't match the vision you have for your company, we can help. Go to performance-painting.com. Our highly trained team makes the difference. Quality coatings applied with pride.
Performance Painting.
This right here is as good as it gets. This is life getting lived without obligations or complications. This is filling your cup and savoring the moment. This is the gift of presence, served to you in a place where there's room for everyone and enough to go around. And the best part, it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
Jaguars linebacker Devin Lloyd had a productive Week 1 against the Dolphins. Lloyd was the highest-graded Jaguars player on Sunday against the Dolphins, according to Pro Football Focus. Lloyd's PFF grade was an 87.3. Lloyd was tied for second on the team with 9 tackles against Miami. Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson was asked on Monday about the performance of Lloyd against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I thought Devin played really, really fast, played physical, he was downhill. He took on blockers, tackled well in space. I thought he played real well.
Peterson, courtesy of Jaguars.com. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
Let's cool down the same way we began the show. There were things that we were not so happy with in the Jaguars' 20-17 loss to the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. There were things we were happy with. And somehow, some way, the turntables. We feel differently about those things we were upset about, and we feel great about those things we don't feel so great about the things we were excited about. And so a couple of those before we wrap up today's program. Let's begin on the offensive side of the ball, because that, ladies, I think is fair to say, in the second half, if nothing else, was the biggest culprit for so many coming out of that 20-17 loss on Sunday. According to Football Insights, the Jaguars offense had the #1 explosive play percentage in the National Football League Week 1. at 15.1%. For context, the Miami Dolphins and that high-powered offense that, yes, certainly was able to take some chunk plays and turn them into massive, game-changing touchdowns, 8.5% explosive play percentage.
I bet that's because they ran more plays overall than the Jags did. So therefore the percentage changes.
Yeah.
Because if anyone watched that game and said that the Jags had more explosive plays just by the eye test, you'd say, no, that's not accurate.
Right. Yeah, Trevor had 12 passes completed. So I feel like when you take 12 passes completed and 6 of them are big plays and one is that touchdown to Brian Thomas Jr., obviously that shifts things. And the same Tua had double the amount of completed passes. So there were more of those moments, especially in the second half, of the ones that were just getting you with like the 8-9 yards. So those ones obviously are included in that.
Which, again, obviously it's just a sample size. But if nothing else, it shows that this offense has the potential to be explosive. So, maybe just file that away if you're Doug Peterson and, maybe you want to call a couple of just go routes. Screw it. BTJ is down there somewhere. I don't know. That might be worth a look-see.
Or BTJ's there. Let's
Exactly.
just start with he's on the football field.
Right. And as we look ahead now to this week's opponent, the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson with 45 dropbacks against the Dallas Cowboys in their loss on Sunday. And when we look at the explosive play rate, so 45 dropbacks, 3.9% explosive play percentage. And if you want to include running and run plays in the explosive play, Jerome Ford held to 12 carries against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, not ideal for that offense, but it's something you're looking at. And it's also when you go back, and I have to see if I can find the number, because as we're talking about that, and I know we'll talk more about the matchup this weekend in general, but between Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, they had 17 pressures against Deshaun Watson. Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker can probably double that if it goes the way that we've been able to see both of them kind of coincide together and what they've been able to do, because and that's what you want. You want to just put everything on Deshaun Watson. He's terrible right now. We didn't even get to this topic. He's a terrible person, but he's also a terrible football player.
He's a terrible person and a terrible football player.
But he's also can't play football anymore. And so we were talking to Denny Thompson about that a little bit yesterday, and how much was affected by his actual shoulder injury. How much is it that he just didn't play for a long time? How much is it where he's in his head because all of this other stuff that's been going on? And I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But Denny does believe that his shoulder did affect some of like the velocity of his ball and stuff like that, because it just doesn't have the speed it used to have, which is, you can tell.
Right, which according to Mary Kay Cabot, who will join us tomorrow, who covers the Browns so closely, that the NFL is not planning to place Deshaun Watson on the commissioner's exempt list, even though, yes, there has been another civil lawsuit with a 2020 allegation going against him that basically he took a girl on a date, he told her he had to have a massage from her, she didn't do it the way that he wanted, and then things went to sexual assault from there. So
doesn't he have a girlfriend still? Because it's the same girlfriend.
Well, this was 2020.
Yeah, but this girlfriend he's with now,
yeah.
I feel like
because he had one when all those other allegations were going on.
I think it's the same one.
I don't know, but he's such a weird.
It's honestly, I feel like you wouldn't want him to be placed on the commissioner's exempt list because
he's
you
not
good. Well, no, you never know what you're going to get with Jameis Winston. You could get a 5-touchdown game on Sunday, or
he may also have 5 picks, but he'll throw some touchdowns.
Exactly. So I'd rather face Deshaun Watson if I'm the Jags.
Yeah. So my cool down is that I said to start the show, I think the offense really needs to flow through Brian Thomas Jr. He's so incredibly fast. We know he can run routes well. He talked trash to Jalen Ramsey, which I know won him over in the hearts of many Jaguars fans after not only did he beat Jalen, then he got the defensive pass interference called. So, look, at the end of the day, he's just a rookie. I understand that's putting a lot on him, but I think he can handle it. So let's get to James Earl Jones. He was, I think, one of the most legendary voices in all of the world of film over the last 70 years. He's one of those people, like, if you close your eyes and you just picture that booming voice, you can tell immediately that it's James Earl Jones that's talking. So he was, of course, in lots and lots of movies. One of my favorites was The Sandlot. We'll let you hear a clip from that. But he was also the voice of this short film. It was about 12 minutes long that the city of Jacksonville put out when they were trying to get an NFL franchise called The City of Dreams. So RJ, take it away.
Jacksonville, a community determined to win an NFL franchise. A special addition to the National Football League. Jacksonville, a city of dreams.
Babe Ruth?
George? I sure did. And he knew me. He was almost as great a hitter as I was. I would have broken his record, too, but...
You went blind.
Yep. I used to crowd the plate so the strike zone almost disappeared. Pitchers hate that. That's the way I played. 100% all the time. Baseball was life. And I was good at it. Real good. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Dad? We're pals, right?
Right.
And we'll always be together, right?
Simba, let me tell you something that my father told me. Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
I mean, if that,
I love it.
Starting from the City of Dreams and the Jacksonville bid to get an NFL franchise all the way to the Sandlot, Field of Dreams, and then Lion King, if that doesn't give you chill bumps, I don't know what does.
Yeah, a life well lived, 93 years old, one James Earl Jones. And it's curious to think, who is the other voice when it comes to such iconic movies? I mean, we didn't even include Star Wars in that.
Yeah. No, we should have with Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, when it comes to being the voice, he is the voice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll ever see another one quite like that in our lifetime.
Yeah, and I think it's such a broad range of movies and things he did too. It's everybody knows him in something, because sometimes it's those voices where like it if you listen to a lot of dramas or a lot of comedies or whatever the case may be. But horror movies, yeah. If you know, and like you can obviously certain people because of those, but someone like him, everybody. When it comes to obviously The Lion King was my childhood. I was obsessed with that movie when I was little. I watched it. It was probably one of the ones that I watched like 100 times, and my mom was like, "Okay, that's enough. We've seen enough Lion King."
I did too, but I always like to skip over that part of the
because you
sad
cried.
part of the movie.
I cried like 17 times in that movie.
How can you? If I watched it right now, I'd cry.
Oh, definitely. And his voice even more so. And maybe it's so nostalgic in general because of a lot of the movies that came out in my childhood that you're hearing. But also like the impactful when you're hearing him talk about baseball, you feel like he means it, like he loves the game, and you can actually feel that from him, which I love too. If you're a baseball fan, that's just something that's iconic too. So it is. It's a voice. I mean, I truly think everybody will remember.
Yeah, I was bummed yesterday when I saw that news. Mia, would you have picked Field of Dreams if you had never lived in Iowa?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually had not seen it. It's a weird, crazy story, to be honest. I had never seen Field of Dreams until April of my senior year at Ithaca College, and immediately fell in love with the film. It's kind of the climactic moment of the sports studies program up there. That's what you watch during your senior practicum, senior film seminar, that it's like one of the final movies you watch because it's supposed to bring to mind all of the literature and philosophies, not just in sport, but in life, that you've learned up to that point on your journey, if you may, with Dr. Mosier and, of course, the formerly Kyle Woody, who was also there. And so, yeah, I watched it in April, was addicted to it, thought it was, like, brilliant. And little did I know, 2 months later, I would get a call from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which, of course, is an hour from Dyersville, where the Field of Dreams is. And 6 days into living there, I drove out there for the very first time.
It was cool when Major League Baseball had the game there at the actual stadium that you're talking about. And, yeah, I mean, if you've never seen Field of Dreams, if you're out there listening, you've never seen it, even if you don't like baseball,
so
that's one of
good.
those movies you
Also
absolutely
cry
have
in
to see.
that movie. But
Yeah, for sure. You cry in that movie. But also The Sandlot.
Yes.
Even if you don't like baseball, that's a movie I feel like you have to see as well.
Yeah, there's so many one-liners out of Sandlot that people comment and quote all the time. And if you say a quote from Sandlot, most people immediately know it's Sandlot. It's just one of those movies that Baby Ruth.
That's right. All right, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill, brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Discover BioTarget Regenerative Therapy, a safer drug-free solution for lasting pain relief. Visit GoBioTarget.com.
The first thing you think of when I say James Earl Jones is
the
Matt
first thing
Hayes?
I think of when you were just talking about that movie was Pez. Cherry Pez. This is one of the greatest lines in movie history. Pez. Cherry Pez.
You're killing me, Smalls.
There's so many good ones.
The first thing I think of when I think of James Earl Jones is, obviously, Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Are you a Star Wars guy?
I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old school Star Wars. I don't like the new stuff with the
Yeah.
series and.
So my grandpa is the original trilogy. My grandpa has probably watched 1,000 times through, and he had like the cassette trilogy. I remember growing up, and we went through the whole thing. When you're younger, I think to me it was a movie I appreciated more the older I got than when I was younger. But it is, I think that it's one of the most iconic movies ever, and then you have the voice attached to it too. That makes it even more.
We did have a couple of our listeners text in and say Morgan Freeman and Sean Connery, probably the only two other voices that would give.
Morgan Freeman's a good one.
Would give James Earl Jones a run for the money. But I said, who is the next voice? I couldn't tell you.
Wow.
Even someone in their, 50s
maybe the
or
Mangler.
60s.
What's the Mangler doing
Yeah,
here?
I know. We did keep it
a-
quiet and under
Hanging
wraps.
out? What's he
We have
doing?
a special guest who popped in studio while we began our first
Did you
segment.
guys talk to him about Bowling Green and what happened last weekend?
Well, I want to talk to him about his weekend in Chicago.
Yeah, he was there for alumni weekend
for the
in
Bears.
Chicago. So yeah.
All right.
Matt, what is coming up today?
Jags, college football. Did I say football?
More football.
Yeah, I think it's, Monday is what the hell happened. Tuesday is, all right, how do you fix it? And I think that's where we are right now. How do you fix it? We're going to also look at DJ Lagway and, could this be I don't know. I don't even want to call it a parachute for Billy Napier because they got to win games. And I don't know how many games they're going to win with a freshman quarterback in that league against that schedule, but we'll break it all down.
Don't worry, he's not starting anyway.
Yeah, here I was expecting Matt to say, could it be a Leak Tebow situation? And instead, it goes the complete opposite way.
Well, he may not be starting, but first problem, first interception, or first, bad series.
That's
you
what I
think
was
Napier will react that quickly?
He reacts very slow anyways.
He does.
That's what I'm saying.
You're
I don't
right.
think he's going to
He
react
does,
that quickly.
but I don't think he has a choice at this point. You lose that game at Texas A&M at home, and you're in trouble.
We didn't think he had a choice as far as hiring an offensive coordinator, and he didn't hire an offensive coordinator.
I said that yesterday, though, Matt. I was like, I feel like he almost is keeping DJ Lagway in his back pocket. That way, if things go crazy, he's like, but I still have DJ, guys. Don't worry.
He's leaving if I'm not here.
Yeah.
Right, and speaking of the offensive coordinator, by the way, you heard last week, or earlier this week, I think it was, when he said, whoever calls plays is overrated.
Mm-hmm. That was yesterday.
Sounds familiar.
I'm sure you've heard that, Mangler. Whoever calls plays is overrated.
We don't even know who's calling plays.
It's got to be something in the water here. I don't know what it is around these parts, Matt.
All right, Matt, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
We'll be listening. All right, that's going to do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. XL Prime Time comes up next.
I'll walk all over you. Yeah. You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet. You keep saying when you ought to be a-changing. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you.